After Uhuru Park, the question was, now what? Now what? The multitude of people who were at Uhuru Park were waiting for Raila to get out of the podium, start marching to State House, and they were ready to follow him. The person who said Raila is the enigma of Kenyan politics was not wrong. We have people, even right now, who find that it is an honor for them to die for Raila. So these people were ready to march to State House. They were willing to go to State House. They were waiting for him just to start going there. And I've said it, I'm saying it, and I will say it. Raila is usually moved by crowds. He becomes very excited, euphoric. Now, at that time, instead of going to State House, he went home. There is an activity of two honorable ladies, which was the purpose of these recordings. Now, here was Ida. She was worried. And if there is anybody who has felt the pains of Raila's activity more than Raila himself, is Ida. Remember bringing up children when he's in detention. Remember being chased away from Kenya High School, where she was teaching. Vehicles come to school with his property. He's told to look for a house. She's told to look for a house. Apologies. She's told to look for a house. She's told now you are going to work in Ministry of Education headquarters, Jogo House. She works in the Ministry of Education for hours. She's sacked. Constant surveillance. Two types of surveillances, both hostile and covert. So here is Ida, very much worried of the outcome. You know, if you have lived, and I can tell you, living that slums in Kibra, suddenly you find yourself in, Buruburu, or even Lavington. And then the idea of going back to Kibera, Katuekera, is very much daunting. So here she was, trying to think ahead of how to correct things, or even trying to imagine of going back to detention days. That is a gracious lady on one hand. There is another gracious lady on the other hand, a much, much older lady than her, Mama Ngina Kenyatta. Mama Ngina Kenyatta is worried. Mama Ngina Kenyatta is worried before we had the, she's the first lady, the first lady, and she saw all the vice presidents since Kenya attained independence. She saw the first vice president, Jaramogi Oginga Odinga. If I want to remind you, Jaramogi Oginga Odinga used to, Jaramogi Oginga Odinga used uh, to call Jomo Kenyatta as our second god. He would even say Jomo Kenyatta is our leader, and he says this, we follow without questioning such and such a thing. So she knew his attitude towards Jomo Kenyatta. She also knew how humble the short-term president Joseph Murumbi. She also was aware of Daniel Arap Moi. Arap Moi used to go around the whole country. And the first thing he would say when he's going around the country, he would tell the people, for those who are of my age and older, they'll tell you, any place he went throughout the country, he would say, mnapokea salamu za rais, rais amenituma niwasalimie. He used to say that the first thing he arrives. So he would say, mumepokea salamu za rais, na nikirudi niwamwambie namna gani? So you can see the type of a person he was. That is Daniel Arap Moi. She knew Vice President Emilio Mwai Kibaki, a person whom even Kikuyus started calling him General Kegwoya. I'll not elaborate that. She knew about Saitoti as a vice president. She about Musalia Mudavadi. You see, Musalia Mudavadi has always treated Moi as matano uncle, mjomba. So even though he was there for days, but she knew how. I would dare say that Wamalwa Kijana was like a co-president. He was like a co-president. And he was like a co-president through the permission of Mwai Kibaki. And then if you look at my second cousin, Wamalwa Kijana, he was not that ambitious. He was not the type who could want to overshadow his boss. So I would want to say, up to this time of recording, that the team of Mwai Kibaki and Wamalwa Kijana was made in heaven. They defeated each other. It is just that death broke that. But they worked so well. It is like each was reading the other's mind, and it is like whatever the other was planning is exactly what this other one was planning. Simply that. It worked well. And then from there comes Uncle Moody Awori. Uncle Moody Awori was not even a vice president. He was just like by his own choice. By his own choice, he was more like an assistant president. He was more like so humble, so whatever. And that one Mama Ngina knew. Mama Ngina knew that, and she placed it in her mind. Then from Moody Awori, there came Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka. He was the vice president, and he was very diplomatic. Now, Deputy President William Samuel Arap Ruto, Kipchirchir, he was a different one. He was more or less like a co-president. Why am I saying that he was more or less like a co-president? First of all, if you look at him, because we have only had 2 deputies, What has Gachagua brought on the table? You see, Ruto came with something on the table. And look at Uhuru. The initial Uhuru would make a very good ceremonial president, working with a very powerful and efficient prime minister. So you find that, to me, they were comfortable with each other. Uhuru was comfortable with being a ceremonial president, and Ruto was comfortable with being an executive, effective deputy president and co-president. But you see, both of them were comfortable with what they were doing, matching shirts and whatever. But Mama Ngina was not comfortable. Remember, even though Jomo died when Uhuru was 17 years, but basically Uhuru was brought up. If you look at people who are born of mothers, and you find that, let's say your mother is the 4th or even the 10th wife, and your father is you have nephews who are older than you. You see, people like Margaret Kenyatta was older than Mama Ngina by birth. So you find that places where your children are brought up by mothers when their father are more or less the age of their grandfather, there is that they become mama's kids. I'm told that is why Uhuru is called Jaden, controlled by his mother. His mother was not happy, and just before the elections, Mama Ngina went to Kabarak. She went to Kabarak, and she wanted advice from the professor of politics. Her intention was that Uhuru has another running mate in the coming elections. But Moi told her that is a ticket for failing. If you go for the second term, and the only way you can win is if the deputy president declares that he himself did not want to second term. But if he goes, that is a... And you know, when he goes, he'll also go with his people, even if they are 5. So Moi advised that let them be on one ticket. Let them be on one ticket pending re-election. After they have been re-elected, then Ruto should be harassed to an extent that he resigns. And you see, Mama Ngina had gone there with Ndoano. She had gone there with Ndoano, saying that let Uhuru have Gideon as his running mate. But Jomo said, no, let us do this. Let Gideon contest for senatorship. And then during the time after they have been sworn in, let Ruto be harassed to an extent that he resigns. Then Gideon can be appointed to be the deputy president. So that thing was there. They campaigned together. And you see, Ruto is a very good campaigner. If you can see the elections, recently, when he was running from one meeting to go to another, to an helicopter, so that he goes to another meeting before the statutory time of campaigning. So Ruto is very good in campaigning. Let him campaign for us. Once he has been, they have been elected, then let him be harassed. But I think one thing they overlooked was you harass Ruto and you think he'll just leave you like that. That is where they underestimated him. Of course, Ruto has had his own people there in Kabarak. They told him what was happening, and Ruto decided to go there and seek for intervention from the professor of politics. And you know who is the gatekeeper at Kabarak? Gideon. That is when Ruto went to Kabarak, and he was told, sorry, Mzee has just taken medications and is sleeping. So he had to come back. So they campaigned and won the elections. When they won the elections, Duale noticed that immediately they were declared winners of the election. Uhuru changed. That is the period between when election were called before Raila went to the Supreme Court. Duale noticed that Uhuru suddenly changed, and he changed for bad. But when Raila went to the Supreme Court, they became friendly, and even things became worse. I mean, they became closer, not worse. They became closer. Sorry, I shoot my things raw. There's no part of editing. So they were forced to be close, and even things became worse when the Supreme Court nullified the election. So they were, this was a thing they called marriage of convenience. They went back and whatever, and Raila did not even campaign. Now, here is a dilemma. I want you to be placed in that dilemma. On one hand, two ladies are not happy. Ida is worried that Raila is going to be dragged into various cases of court cases and whatever, and is not getting any younger. It will have a drain on him. It will have a drain on the family and whatever. And then here is also Mama Ngina, concerned that they have, she's going to live through 5 more years of Ruto's co-presidency. Let me tell you, for Raila and Uhuru to shake hands at Harambee House, there's a lot of things that happened. The first thing was the two gracious ladies met. And they had one thing in common. Two things in common. One, they they don't like Ruto. Two, Uhuru needed Raila in order to contain Ruto. And Raila needed Uhuru in order to not to spend time in the industrial area. So these ladies, that was the first approach. Then from there, that is when they now, Mama Ngina told Uhuru, now go and meet Raila. And Mama Ida told Raila, go and meet Uhuru. That is when they met. And they were tongue-tied. They were tongue-tied because I know Somali tradition. I know Somali tradition. Let me give you an example. You see, Somali tradition, the parents of the boy and the parents of the girl agree that this is a good match, isn't it? Yeah. And then I know that because, you see, Mrs. Duale was my next door neighbor. And so Duale is a sort of a brother-in-law to me. So General Mahmoud's family and Duale's family met, and General Mahmoud met Duale's parents, and they agreed that, yeah, it is good for Duale to marry Miss General. And when they agreed and whatever, that is when Duale's parents went and told him, we have agreed that you are going to marry General's daughter. So enda ujitete. So Duale meets Halima. Yeah, that is her name. To me, she's like a sister because we grew up together, but I'm much, much older than her. So they meet. You know, they both know that parents have approved their marriage, but you see, Duale has to woo Halima. Just, you understand, isn't it? So he has to woo her, and that is the same situation that Raila and Uhuru found themselves, wherever they found themselves. they know that their meeting has been approved by the two gracious ladies, and this is what is happening. So nani anaanzisha story? So wakakunywa chai kila mtu dhamos mzima sasa huku whatever. But after 2 to 3 meetings, the rest, as they say, is history. And the intention here was they had a common enemy who was Ruto, and whom they were but Ruto ni mtu he stayed in Ng'ando hapa Dagoretti, hapa Riruta. And him having come out of the slums, imagining that he was to go back to the slums was a bit of a challenge. So he didn't want to go back. And he's stuck there. That is the aftermath. That is what led to. Keep watching for more. And keep listening to Sauti Sol Song Extravaganza. Walijaribu kutuzuia, lakini wakakuta sisi ndio deadly. Thank you.